G'day and welcome to A Down Under Yarn. I am your host Fiona, also known as Fifykins. If you find someone on the YouTubes called Fifykins, it's probably me. Today is Thursday the 3rd of July, 2014. It is 5 p.m. I'm actually recording inside. I've been inside a lot this week. It's been quite chilly here. And when I say chilly, we have had a couple of mornings where the morning temperature has been about 12 degrees. Now, yes, it does warm up later in the day, but for us that is chilly, and in the evenings that is really chilly. We went out for dinner on Tuesday evening with a group of Mimmel's colleagues. Mimmel is the man in my life. That's how I refer to him on here. He does have a name, but he prefers it if I call him Mimmel on here. He's in a profession where he doesn't like having a lot of online presence. So that's, if I refer to someone called Mimmel, it is the man in my life. Anyway, we went out to a work dinner with him on Tuesday night, and we went out to this most amazing Italian restaurant, which was sort of in the middle of nowhere, but I think during the day it's on the banks of a reservoir area. And it was fantastic, except it was on a huge outdoor balcony and it was freezing. Luckily I'd taken my Greek fire and I just wrapped myself in it, and people kept saying how warm I looked. I still felt cold because I was wearing like a tank top with just the Greek fire. And I said I wished I'd had a sweater with me. There are other people there who had coats on, who had fleeces on, because it was cold. Anyway, so I'm inside at the moment. It's been an interesting week. Sorry, I'm a bit scattered here. Let me take a deep breath in and out. Okay, this is episode number 75. I am the host of A Down Under Yarn. I'm also the dyer behind Flair Fibres. There will be a brief shop update at the end of this episode. And I also know that I have to slow down. Someone told me this week they'd watched Josh, who's sort of a knitter. They sent me a private message on Facebook and said, I watched sort of a knitter, and he speaks faster than you do. So I have to be conscious that I do have to slow down when I talk. This week has been an interesting week, to say the least. It has been the first week of the school holidays here in Queensland, and that has had the usual shenanigans with the kids going down to visit their dad and the shenanigans that go along with that. I won't go into that here. It's just every time something happens, and multiple things have happened this time. I'm still not sure when the kids are coming home. That hasn't been confirmed, if they're coming home tomorrow or not. Of course, tomorrow's my birthday. So, of course, I'd love to see them on my birthday. I understand as well it's important for them to see their dad. But if you don't try and communicate with someone, it makes it really difficult to organise things. And I don't believe that a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old should be responsible for organising their own school holiday plans with their father, because he doesn't want to communicate with me. So it makes life quite tricky. Anyway, I've had that. I've had, Mimmel has had some disappointing news this week, just with regards to the study he was doing. He didn't do as well as he had hoped, which means he's got to sit an exam again. It's only 10% of the people passed it. So it is what it is. It is the pathway he has to take to get medical registration here in Australia, full medical registration. He's on limited registration at the moment because he is an overseas trained doctor, and I can see why they do it. It is what it is. It just doesn't feel right when he gets glowing praise at work. He gets fantastic reports from all his supervisors, and then gets put in an artificial clinical examination. But hey, it is what it is, and it's a money-making exercise for some bodies. Let's just call it that. He will be able to go back and sit the exam again. He's also looking at, you know, when something happens and your immediate thought is to, well, let's see what other people can do. So he's found out what he has to do if he wants to go and work in Canada or the US or New Zealand. And apparently at the moment the US is winning because they have some pretty cool things. He was looking when I was in Rochester for the Knitpocalypse. The Mayo Clinic has a fellowship here on addictions medicine, which is what he really wants to focus on. And he said that would be awesome if he could go and do that for a year and take me along with him. I said, I'm all for that. I don't know how I'd cope through the winter, but we'd have to wait and see. Anyway, enough babbling for the moment. I have some administrati. I have 2 draws to make today. The first draw I'm going to make is the 300 member giveaway. Now, this is on the Down Under Yarns group. Let me just double check. We're actually up to 321 members. I know that I'm often remiss with this, but I do want to welcome new members and thank returning members for coming back to watch me. I know what it's like to watch podcasts. I watch quite a few podcasts, and I've noticed recently I've slowly been catching up. I was about 6 weeks behind in my podcasts, and it was really getting me down because I wanted to be up to date with everyone. I went to the Knitpocalypse, and for instance, when I went to the Knitpocalypse, I think I was 4 episodes behind in Retro Lemon, and I hadn't caught up with the news that her husband had a new job, and that made me feel bad, but at the same time, I know that she understood. So I wanted to be up to date, and there are some podcasts that I've been watching for ages and ages, and I've just skipped a few episodes. So I understand that people don't watch me every week. I'm fine with that. If people want to watch me, that's great. If they don't, that's fine as well. Trying to find my random number. Here we are. So, 321 members. I think that's pretty fantastic. It's a quiet board that we have, but I'm okay with that. We had, here we are, where are we? We had 65 entries. So I'm going to enter number 2 to 65. Let me see if you can see that. I've entered 2 through 65. Still got the number there from the last time I did that. And then I hit generate. Number 30. Number 30 will be on page 2. Now the winner is entitled to a skein of the exclusive Zombie Knitpocalypse colourway. I sold out of that at the Zombie Knitpocalypse. I'm not planning on dyeing any for the shop. But if you would, so this person has a chance to get that in any base that they like, any of the bases that I dye. And I will try and dye that up in the next few weeks. When I say that, I have a yarn order on its way. Supposedly, I looked at the tracking this morning and it wasn't where it was supposed to be, so I don't know what's happening to it. I have some stock of some bases, but for instance, I've got none of the Apollo base at the moment. So just letting you know. So now, number 30 is OC Knitter. And that is Jerry, who's in New Mexico. And she says she's an obsessively compulsive knitter with too many projects going. I totally understand that. And her hubby has built her a spinning wheel. That is fantastic. So congratulations, OC Knitter. Please get in touch with me. Let me know if you would like the special Zombie Knitpocalypse colourway or any other colourway. This is just the only opportunity that people who weren't at the Knitpocalypse will have of getting that. That being said, I know that I promised someone a skein who wasn't going. They contacted me beforehand, so that person needs to contact me again too. I've got a fair idea I know who you are. I think it's someone from my Monday evening VKM group. Now, the thing that I asked for in this was, where are we? Here we are. I wanted you to I wanted you to tell me a phrase or a saying that's peculiar to your country or region. So, for instance, I feel it in my waters is something that my family uses for some reason, and it's just been going around. I can feel it in my waters, you know. I know things are going to change. I can feel it in my waters. Anyway, this person says in their neck of New Mexico, they say, get down, as in when you ride in the car somewhere, someone will say, you want to get down and come in? Also, the natives here say, is it? Instead of really or serious, as in, I went to the store. The response would be, is it? When you live here long enough, you say it too. That is quite funny. I know that that happens. I've picked up some South African phrases that Mimmels family uses, and I use them too. So that's really funny. So OC Knitter, please be in touch. The other drawer is for the finished objects for April to June from Solar Flair Fibres. Now, if you finish an object made with Solar Flair Fibres, please enter it into the quarterly drawer. Now, if you have finished it and you haven't entered it into the April to June drawing, April, May and June, you can enter it in the July, August, September drawing. That's fine. You can just only enter something once. There are some fantastic projects this month. There are some shawls, there's some socks, there, what else? There was something else down here. Oh, a cowl, a crocheted cowl made by one of my good friends who is from our Cairns Ravelry group. So this one we had 9 entries. So I will go from number 2 to number 9. And I know that this one will be on the first page. So there we go. I will hit generate and it's number 9. And I know that that is Julia, who is my friend from the Cairns Ravelry group. That's fantastic. She did a crochet cowl using just one skein of the Apollo base. So she's just lovely. So Julia, we will be in touch and you can have another skein of yarn. So there you go. Now, I think that's most of the administrati out of the way. I am hoping to have another knit along sometime soon. I know we're in July now. August is coming soon, then September, October. I was thinking August and September having a knit along, a charity knit along. So to knit something for charity. So knit something for something near you. October is Cancer Awareness Month. In Australia, they're now calling it Female Cancer Awareness Month instead of just Breast Cancer Awareness Month because they recognise all female cancers and the impact they have on women's lives. But I think also need to focus on all cancers. I know one of my mum's good friends died this morning from cancer, lost her battle with cancer. And that was someone I knew as well. Not very well. Hadn't seen her for many years. I actually knew her sons when I was at uni first time round. So yeah, so that is something, and I know a lot of people do knit hats. So I was thinking in August and September to have a charity knit along. Now that can be knitting anything that can be used for charity. So whether or not it's blanket squares or hats or penguin cozies or anything at all that can be used, that can be given to someone else that shares the joy of a hand knitted or crocheted object. Up here in Cairns, I'll be doing it for Cairns Butterflies, which is the group that does hats for our local hospital. And that is for stillbirths and for late term miscarriages and for babies at neonatal deaths. They find a lot of the time babies who are born exceptionally early are so tiny and so fragile, yet their parents do want to have some memories with that child, and if they can have a really stretchy beanie that can go over the baby's head, that is something that the family can treasure when they spend time with that baby. So that is that. Before I go on to knitting, I also wanted to mention a couple of new podcasts that I have found. One is the Hops and Hanks podcast with Amelia, and I met Amelia at the Knitpocalypse, and she was part of our group. I had watched a couple of episodes before, but have been watching it since then, and it is a really, really good podcast. And it's one you can probably sit down with other people, even if they're not into knitting, because Amelia and her partner talk about beer. They talk about the characteristics of the beer they're drinking. They record with a beer, and it is a lot of fun, and it's really educational. So that is one, Hops and Hanks. That is on YouTube at the moment. I understand it's going to be on iTunes soon. The other one I am very, very, very excited about. I caught the first episode just earlier on this afternoon, is the Dairyland Knits podcast. and that is with Josh, who is Aracula82. I hope I said that correctly. Now, Josh is from Wisconsin. I met him at the Zombie Apocalypse. He said some stuff about me in his first podcast, and I'm not sure if he is referring to me or not, because it doesn't sound like me, but still. Thank you so much, Josh, for the shout out. And it really is a lot of fun. I didn't realise Josh is actually a professor, so I'm now going to call him Professor Josh. Other people call him Nice Josh as opposed to Sort of a Knitter Josh, but I think Sort of a Knitter Josh is also a nice Josh, so I'm going to call him Professor Josh. So that is that. If anyone else has any new podcasts, please let me know on the Ravelry board. There are, as I say, I have two Ravelry boards. There's the Solar Flair Fibres board and the Down Under Yarn board. One of the reasons I did that, I didn't want to combine them, is because Ravelry's ad guidelines say that you can't advertise in a group that has the same product as you. So, for instance, I can't advertise in Highland Handmaids, just out of the blue. Highland Handmaids podcast, because Heather dyes yarn. And that's understandable. I totally understand that. But it's also why I chose to set up two groups. So there is the Down Under Yarn, and it's fantastic seeing people's ads pop up there, especially Yarn versus Zombies. And her ads are always fantastic to look at. Her yarn is always fantastic to look at as well. And then there's the Solar Flair Fibres group as well. So, for instance, if you sell patterns or bags, you can then advertise in the Solar Flair Fibres group or the Down Under Yarn. But that's the main reason behind that. That's why there's two groups. Knitting. This was going to be a short podcast because sometimes short's good, sometimes long's good too, but this was going to be short. But I've just babbled, so I do apologise. Finished objects. I have a finished object. I have two finished objects. I finished my Camp Loopy socks. These were knit in 5 days. And it's pretty amazing. The goal was to use 400 yards. I used just on 400 yards. They do stretch up, they're shrunk down a bit. This is the String Theory Continuum yarn, which is an MCN blend. They are very nice and soft in the Oenology colourway. Now, Oenology is the study of wine. So each of the stripes is related to wine. So I know the pink one is rosé, and I think the gold one is champagne. I can't remember offhand, and I don't have it in front of me. The band's actually outside on the deck. So I finished these. Now, at the Zombie Apocalypse, I took two different classes that helped me with these. The first one was Heather's 2 at a time sock class. So I knit these 2 at a time. I cast on both the toes at the same time. Actually, they would have gone that way. So I cast them on. The really fascinating thing for me, because I don't dye self-striping yarn, I had someone contact me on Instagram this morning saying, "Oh, I love your yarn. Do you dye self-striping yarn?" And I don't. There are so many fantastic people out there dyeing self-striping yarn that I'm not doing that. I am going to do some more gradients though. Anyway, the thing about these was I know that both slip knots were in exactly the same position in relation to where the colours were, and yet they were always 4 or 5 stitches out. Same number of stitches on each needle, same of everything, and towards the heel, I ended up being about half a row out. I did the Spacious OMG heel by Megan Williams. This is in her new sock pattern expanding community, which we were all given at the Stockinette Zombie Apocalypse. And I have done the original OMG heel and find it's quite shallow for me. I've got a very high instep. This is fantastic, this one. It has a much bigger mock gusset. So it's the 1 needle mock gusset. The cats are here. They've just knocked down Jasper's board that he has there, his weekly activity board. Anyway, so once I finished the heel, I actually used 4 of the 5 colours. I broke the yarn and started here again in this creamy colour so that the colour repeats would be the same. Now again, I started exactly the same way, and again, it ended up being a little bit out. You cannot tell from here. because of the way they are. Yeah, but hey, I just find that quite interesting. The other class I took was designing socks with a basic stitch dictionary. So I actually threw one of the rules that Jenna from 716 Knits, who took the class, said was to use the rule of thirds. And I looked at that and threw it out the window and decided to just do a very small broken rib pattern up the side of the sock. Now, when I did it, I actually did it all the way up into the cuff. I don't know if that's necessary or not. I'm going to write this pattern up just for those people who wanted it. I've had a couple of people who said that they quite like it. And it is really good because I do have these chunky feet. And when I put this on, it actually stretches. You can see there, if I stretch it out a bit, and it looks really nice over the leg. So that is that one. Now, what was I going to say about that? Oh, it also breaks it up. So it means you're not just knitting in stockinette all the way up the sock, because that can get a tad boring. So it just breaks it up a little bit and gives a little bit of variety. And it's just, for me, it was just enough. So that is that. I'll put it out as a free pattern. I'm not going to charge anyone for that. Because it is what it is, and I'm not going to put the heel pattern in there. You're going to have to buy that pattern yourself because it is well worth it. Although Megan did have a pattern going up the heel in the expanding community socks, I did a slip stitch, I have partridge heel, because I think that will wear better, and I wasn't doing the pattern up my socks, so I didn't want to use that pattern. So that is that. They were finished just in the nick of time. It was still June in the US, so I figured that was okay. And I did enjoy doing it. Doing it two at a time felt like it was quicker in some ways, but it also felt like it was slower in others. So, for instance, the ribbing seemed to go on forever. I'm not the world's... Ribbing doesn't really excite me. But these were... They seemed to go on a little bit more. And I probably stopped ribbing one or two rows before I could have. The other reason for that was I didn't actually want to go into a new colour at the top. And I bound off using what I call the Stephen West Shaw bind off, which is where you knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, put it back on the needle, knit the two together through the back loop. And I didn't do that in pattern because I find when they're stretched out on my leg, you can't tell. So that is that. Recommend the yarn, really nice stripy yarn, and recommend the pattern because it's mine. But I do recommend the heel pattern in there. So that is that. Now, the second thing that I cast on, I actually cast on yesterday, which was the 2nd of July, is my second Camp Loopy project. This is out of, here's part of a ball. I have 4 or 5 of these balls. This is Socks That Rock Heavyweight in the Spinel colourway. So it's a worsted weight, 198 grams, I believe, per skein. And I've got 4 or 5 of them. So I've got plenty of yarn. I wound 2 yesterday. The first one wound like a dream. The second one had a knot in it. And when they tied the knot, I'm pretty sure they wound it back the other way and it just got all out of hand. And I got confused, so I ended up with 3 little balls. I did swatch. I am knitting the Pumpkin Ale cardigan by Isolde Teague, and it's out of the Rhinebeck Sweater book. I would like to have this done for Bendigo. That's in 2 weeks. That's going to be a big ask. I don't know if it's going to get done or not. It might end up being some of my Bendigo knitting. Just knowing other stuff I've got to get done in that time, it's unlikely. I did a mini swatch, and that was enough for me to know that my row gauge was spot on. My stitch gauge was 1 out, but in this pattern, it's the row gauge that's important. The back is knit in a panel, and then you pick up along the sides and wrap it around the body. So this is how much I've done so far of the back. Now, the back is heavily cabled. You can kind of see there. There are the two main motifs, and then there is a mini motif as well that goes up the back. It also goes down the sleeves, and really, really enjoying it. I was never a cabling person until Heather, who is Bunny Fish, convinced me I could cable without a cable needle. Now, I had tried it a couple of times, and then finally, I don't know what happened, but it just clicked, and I worked out that, oh, this is pretty easy. So I'm using my carbons needles I picked up at Stephen B's. I've only got a 60 centimetre cable, which is fine for the back. I know I'm going to need a longer cable later on, so I've actually ordered some tips, some carbons tips. They will go into my Knit Pro cables, which I have, so that will be good. I'm at my first waist decrease. This is going bottom up, this first bit. Yeah. Hey, I'll see how much I can get done. And once I've done the back panel, the sides shouldn't be that difficult because it is a lot of stockinette, wrapping it around the sides. So we'll see how we go. I can only try. I am using the amazing stitch markers by Hayley, who is Hales Knits. You can kind of see them there. I have the Believe, the Love Hearts, and the Elephant. I have those ones on there that Hayley made me at, gave them to me at the Knitpocalypse. So that's pretty special too. The theme for the second Camp Loopy, probably the second month, was something that reminded you of a holiday spot. Whenever someone asks me about a holiday spot that I'm reminded of, it was interesting. I was thinking about it the other day. I don't think of when I went to France as a teenager. I don't think of trips to England as a young adult. I don't think of a trip to Tahiti in my last year of school with my French class. I don't think of cruises around the South Pacific. I think of my grandfather's farm in Western Victoria. He had a merino farm at the foot of the Grampians. And this colourway, the bluey green, really reminds me of that and of the rock faces there. So that's one of the reasons I've got this one. So that is that. I'll see how far I can get on that this week. I have some spinning, but my spinning wheel's actually over at Mimmels. I took it there last night because I was spinning, but I have the second half of the braid. I've almost finished the first half. This is Ixchel Bunny, and I don't have the tag with me, but I know it is a merino Angora glitz blend. You can kind of see some of the sparkle in there. It is really nice, except I'm finding because it's spinning so thin, and because I short forward draw with my left hand with this, my thumb and my first finger are actually feeling quite numb. So I'm going to see how much more I can get done tonight. It's the Kent show in a couple of weeks as well. And when I was away, I got an email saying, hey, you haven't put your entries in yet from the show association. And when I was really jet lagged, I think I was over optimistic about what I could achieve. So this is one of the things that I've entered, this spinning. Now, when you enter spinning at the Cairns show, not only do you have to have the spun fibre, you have to have knit up a swatch. Entries have to be in Friday week, so I've got to get this done so I can soak it and knit up my swatch. Also the BFL that I spun last time, I've entered that. Hey, one of the reasons I enter is to show people that there are other things you can do with fibre than what traditionally a lot of people up here have done. The fibre crafters are fantastic and they have a lot of different things, but for instance I'm putting some dyeing in. One of the things I almost put up in the shop update this week, I thought I can't put that up, I'm entering it at the show. So that is that. The other thing with the show, they have a category that is you have to have done 3 processes out of dyeing, spinning, felting, knitting, crocheting, weaving, etc. And I thought, you know, way back when I was in my jet lag state, I'll just dye up some fibre, spin it and knit it. Well, I've now got a week, but I have dyed the fibre. I dyed this up randomly the other day. It is still a wee bit moist, so I've still got it on the hanger. It's 100% merino. It is really fine merino. I dyed some fibre for a friend last year. This is really only the second lot of fibre that I've dyed. I didn't manage to felt it, so I'm quite happy. I didn't have any superwash anything here, and I thought, hey, I can just do this. Because I dye out in the sun, again, solar dyeing. Boys, you think they were kittens, the way they're carrying on. I was a little bit random about this. I got one of my big plastic tubs that I use, put some water in the bottom, some vinegar, put the fibre in, spread it out, got 3 squirty bottles out of the fridge of mixed up dyes that were already mixed up. There was a pinky one, a greeny one, and a purpley bluey one, and just squirted them randomly. And thought, hey, I'm quite happy with the way it's turned out. So I was thinking, if I pull this off now and get it here, I can probably... Is this how I'm meant to do it? No. Is this how you do it? Oh, I've forgotten how to braid a bloody, excuse me, braid fibre. I'm doing these 2 at a time. This is a really, really rough braid. Look, you can get a little bit of an idea now from that. I wouldn't definitely not sell anything like that because it's such a rough braid, but I like the way the colours have come out. Susan B. Anderson has released the 1 hour baby flower hat this week, and that's what I'm hoping to do with this. It calls for a bulky or an Aran weight, and I'm hoping I can actually spin it that way. I'll probably just 2-ply it and see how we go. Oh, look, the cats have seen that there's something fluffy on the ground. Anyway, let me see if I can get this a wee bit tighter. I might braid it up and try and take a photo beforehand. The good thing about this is I don't have to save any of the fibre. They just trust me, I think. So, again, it's going to be pretty rough and ready, but it's also a demonstration for people that this is what's possible. Here, a lot of people spin fleece and don't necessarily, I don't know what happened in there, but that's okay. Don't necessarily dye it first. They dye the yarn afterwards. I prefer to spin dyed fleece. That's just me. So, that is that. If I get the ritual bunny finished in the next couple of days, I will then quickly do that as well. So that's why the jumper, I can't see me getting that done in the near future. Shop update. There will be a shop update tomorrow morning. I still have to reskein some of the yarn. There will be mainly Winter Rainbow and Midnight Mardi Gras going up. Now, Midnight Mardi Gras is the Winter Rainbow, but with the black in between. So it has the black with the rainbow colours going around. And that will be up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So I've got to go and reskein and take some photos and do that. I think that's about it. I don't think there's much more. Don't forget to enter your finished items from Solar Flair Fibres in the Solar Flair Fibres board. If you want a prize, please contact me. And apart from that, I think I'm done. So until next week, I'll say uru, cheers, bye.